Hi, welcome to a new podcast here at Explore North. I'm your host, Jon Amtrup. A few days ago, I came across a book that got me really inspired. It was a food book, and I love cooking books. I made contact with the publisher. He sent me a digital copy, and I was really inspired by all the recipes and most of all about the take on it all, because the book is called The Hunter and the Gatherer, and it's all about making sustainable food by catching and harvesting most of the food yourself, and most important of all, how to make it in a small kitchen on a small boat while you travel. So it's all about sustainability, getting food without it all being wrapped in plastic before you buy it. So I had to have a talk with Catherine Lawson, who is the author of the book. She has written it with David Bristow and their daughter Maya Bristow, who is 11 years of age. They were at a little anchorage in Indonesia while I talked to them. I talked to Catherine, and it was a really nice and inspiring talk. And so you have to listen to this and get more inspired to make more food from the ground up on board. And while we're talking about inspiration, I hope my new book, Sail to Svalbard, with the second edition, newly updated, just on the market. You can check it out on my webpage. Buy it from me or from Amazon as a Kindle or paperback. And these two books are not... They are a little bit different. One is from the Arctic. One is how to make food in the sunny part of the world, warm part of the world. The other one is sailing in the high latitudes, but it's all about sailing and doing it in a sustainable fashion. First of all, listen to this podcast. Good morning, it's time for a new podcast, and this time it's to give you a view of where I am right now, because there's ice forming around my boat here in Fredrikstad, but that's not the situation in your part of the world, Catherine.
No, it's very balmy today, and I could jump overboard if I felt so inclined.
Cool. Where are you?
I'm in a town called Baubau, which is in southern Sulawesi in Indonesia.
Right. And the internet is not in your hands, is it?
No, so there's a little trick that the local mosques, when they would like to call the locals to come to pray at the mosque, they will turn the internet down. I don't know how they do this, but it seems very reliable system and it works. So we're taking a little gap in between prayer times today, and we'll be very happy if it all works out.
Yeah, well, we're hoping. But the reason we're talking is because I found your newly released book, but it's not actually out of the print shop yet, is it?
No, it's available digitally, but the hard copy will be with us, cargo boats doing their right job. It should be out in a couple of months' time. So
cool, yeah, because I got the digital edition and I was really inspired. It's called the Hunter and the Gatherer. And I'm not guessing because I read the book. So you're the gatherer.
I am the gatherer.
Yeah.
My partner David is definitely the hunter. And it seems a bit pink and blue, but it's not really. I was a vegetarian for almost my whole adult life. And when we started cruising to Indonesia about 4 years ago, I was really, really shocked by the plastic situation. And I am sure that everybody that has travelled across oceans and into countries that are newly developing will understand that the problem is just overwhelming. And I had to do a real double take about how I was eating, what kinds of food I was putting into my shopping trolley. And it really came down to the fact that eating seafood that we've caught ourselves sustainably, hand picked, without damage to the ecosystems that we have travelled so far to enjoy, just really made sense. And so we started to explore what we call nude food, which is food without packaging, food that comes, by the grace of everything around us that feeds us as part of the food chain. And I don't take that for granted, but it comes without contributing to the situation around the world that we are all very, very conscious of these days. So I became a pescatarian, and I just like to eat what we catch. So that really inspired the way we were living, and it inspired the way we were cruising as sailors, as a family of liveaboards. And it's how the hunter and the gatherer really came about, because we started catching our own fish, gathering our own seafood, which might include mud crabs in some parts of the world, or oysters, seaweed. Certainly, where I am in Indonesia, it includes harvesting coconuts, because they are everywhere and you can use all parts of the coconut for drinking, for food. And it also stretched on to things like fermenting our foods and preparing our own ingredients like cheese and yogurt, and growing a micro garden, all of which we've explored in the book through trial and error. But when you're living this cruising, sailing lifestyle, and particularly if you're lucky enough to be in the nice warm climates that we're exploring at the moment,
Yeah.
it's really in your best interest to develop some of those skills so that you can stay in the beautiful parts longer and not have to find yourselves trudging back to town to seek out, supermarkets and fresh food markets and things like that. And it helps you feel very self-reliant, very self-sufficient. And I guess that's what that title, The Hunter and the Gatherer, really taps into. I feel like we're, as people, after COVID and after all the things that we experienced, we've really felt this pull towards living a bit more self-sufficiently, to escaping the controls and the systems that pegged us down for so long. And I that sort of going through that process that everyone in the world went through, it really drew me back to that, well, how can I take back some control of my life? And I can when I'm talking about how I gather my food, and can I do it with a tiny footprint and with minimum harm to those environments that as sailors we get to appreciate every time we weigh anchor and hoist the sails.
Yeah, and because this your lifestyle is actually how people used to live before everything, actually, isn't it? Because
Well, yes,
when people were out hunting and gathering,
look,
where there were
John,
no
honestly,
supermarkets.
that's true. And my cruising girlfriends and I laugh that some days it feels like we're living in the 1920s, because we're feeding our sourdough, we're making our dough, we're baking our bread, we're
Yeah.
growing things, and the yogurt's fermenting. If we want to have a drink, we've got to brew our own ginger beer. So it is a time-consuming sort of process. But then so is getting in your car and driving to the supermarket and finding a park and getting a trolley,
Mm.
and then coming home and putting it all away. So yes, I think it is returning to a little bit of that kind of pioneering lifestyle, seafaring lifestyle.
Yep.
But I think it's quite rewarding, even though, yeah, there's no getting around the fact that it takes a bit of time and effort. But I think it's at the end of the day, being able to feed yourself and your family is it's a pretty cool feeling. It's a pretty
Yeah.
nice way to live.
Yeah. I can imagine. And it has to have a pretty good upside economically, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes, it does. It really does.
Yep.
Look, we're not, even though it's the hunter and the gatherer, I wouldn't call myself an angler. My partner David,
Yep.
who is the photographer of our team, he took all of the beautiful food photos and all of the lifestyle photos that are in the book. He really enjoys the providing part of it, not so much the hunting itself. Definitely enjoys providing. And it is a great thing when you arrive at an anchorage at the end of the day and you've been trolling a lure and you've caught yourself a fish that, if it's a big pelagic, could feed our family for, 4 or 5 days. So the economical part of it is certainly very appealing, but it's also the fact that there's no waste in a lot of our lifestyle. There's very minimal waste in the way we live, and that's something that you can take that little bit of guilt that you might otherwise have and you can just let it wash away. So that feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. But I had a podcast a few weeks ago with a Swedish guy who tried to buy groceries without plastic on it.
Yes.
And it was almost impossible to get any food without any plastic on it. So, but how do you find that when you have to go to the supermarket?
Yes. In Indonesia, we're very, very lucky because all of those kind of, well, in Australia, all of those convenience foods, they don't really exist here. People go to the fresh produce market every day, every couple of days, and they buy all of their greens and their pumpkins and potatoes, and they'll buy their fish, they'll buy their peanuts and grains and lentils and whatever else they're eating. They'll buy it all out of sacks and off stalls. So for us, we just have to say tidak plastic, which is no plastic in Bahasa Indonesia, and we put it in our reusable shopping bags. And that's probably, together with the seafood that we catch and the things that we grow, that's probably about 80% of what we eat. You can also buy rice like that. So we're very lucky here, but it very much depends on where in the world you might be traveling and seeking out, if and when you do need to gather supplies, seeking out those products which you consider to be minimal waste. And that's probably easier in some places than others, but certainly in Southeast Asian countries, the markets are so fantastic that we can get almost everything we need and buy it plastic free. Well, we've been doing it a very long time, so people just assume now that we're going to do something a little bit crazy next, and nobody really bats an eyelid. But I do remember in the early days that people were very disbelieving, suspicious about how we were going to make everything work. And the fact that we weren't doing things in a way that everybody else was. Certainly, being unconventional makes people feel uncomfortable a lot of the time. And that, I find, is especially so when it comes to what you do with your kids. Everybody's got an opinion about how children should be schooled, and COVID did us a wonderful thing in that people who might never consider world schooling or homeschooling or unschooling their kids suddenly were, and they realised that it wasn't some weird, strange hippie thing that people do when they disappear off over the horizon. So it's much more acceptable, and people have realised that both kids are bright and intelligent and articulate and have futures. So people in the early days of our adventuring might have been a little wary of our choices, but these days they realise that nobody's created any harm. We're all still upright. Our child is very much still alive. So they tend to just leave us alone now.
What's your
Sure.
you written 160 recipes of some sort in the book?
I have. The book would have been bigger if I'd gotten my own way, but I think 160 is probably enough. It's a good start.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. Really inspiring. But if you
Thank you.
can pick out one or two favorites?
Gosh, there are so many. Everything to do with mud crab.
Yeah.
Which I know is a little bit unfair because mud crab is delicious and not available everywhere. Look, there is one recipe which is a kind of mango infused Spanish mackerel. Again, a pelagic from this part of the world, but the recipe would work with any firm white fish anywhere, and you don't even have to use fresh mangoes. So this hashtag no excuses about that one. But it is just one of those beautiful sort of Thai-inspired dishes that has that sort of hot lime, that sour kind of flavour, and it just sings of summer. That's one of my favourites. And if I have to pick something sweet, it's a coconut cake, which is fantastic. It uses 5 ingredients, and one of which is coconut, of course. Coconut, any dried fruit you like. It uses a little bit of milk, any milk you like, flour, and any kind of sweetener that you like. And it's very forgiving. My daughter's been making it since she was about 5 years old, and she makes them before every passage, and it doesn't matter how long the passage goes, as long as the cake lasts, it's moist. So hence we have to make about 4 of them before we set sail. But it is so delicious, and it's so healthy that you're allowed to have 2 slices. It is fantastic. And because we harvest coconuts where we are, we're halfway there, and we haven't even opened the cupboards. So yeah, that would be my absolute favourite sweet treat, and it tastes just as good at midnight when you're on your own on the helm as it does afternoon tea with mates. So yeah, have a crack at that one. I reckon that's really.
I'm gonna do that. What you've been living this life for 20 years now, isn't that right?
I have a lot of boats. Boat number 5 now.
Okay. What did make you decide to move from a shore-based life to a sea-based life, or a sailing life?
Do you know what's funny, John? I often find that the people who become long-term cruisers often have no experience at sailing when they start. They just have an idea and a dream that that's something they would like to do. And when David and I bought our first boat, neither of us had ever sailed or spent any time on a sailboat. We certainly don't come from sailing families. And we just had an idea that it was going to be a beautiful way to travel and to explore. So we bought this tiny boat, and I mean tiny. It was 20 foot, and it probably cost us just a couple of weeks' wages. And we did it up in the backyard of David's parents' house. And when we launched it, we didn't even know if we were going to be seasick. We just slept out on the deck the first night and thought, if this goes well, tomorrow we'll raise the sails. And that's what we did. And we just progressively bought bigger and, slightly bigger boats and increased our ambitions until we took boat number 4, which was quite a small catamaran for taking offshore. It was a hitchhiker, a 35-foot hitchhiker. And before that, it was a 31-foot Warram Tiki. And we took those boats amazing places that people would just go, no, you didn't do it in that. But sound boats that sail well deserve to go to exciting places. And we sort of slowly developed our skills over all that time, and now we're on a slightly bigger 41-foot catamaran. It's a Granger, Tony Granger design, which was probably not a boat design that you're familiar with in the Northern Hemisphere, but it is an Australian design, and it's a great, light, fast, comfortable liverboard. So we've slowly worked our way up and around and out of Australia, and there's just no turning back for us. It's a beautiful lifestyle, and it's an exciting way to explore cultures because it's very slow, and some days are very slow. But the travel itself brings you in intimate contact with people, because as a tourist you can, and I've spent many years, not knocking any kind of other travel, because we certainly go inland and explore as other people do as backpackers, and but this way, needing things as a cruiser, needing food, needing fuel, having to arrange visas and clearing in and clearing out, it brings you in contact with people at a local level. And we're not just tourists, we're really integrating as much as we can with people and exploring places, tiny places where people are very interested in where we've come from and what we're doing. So I like that intimacy. Sometimes it's the struggles. Here there's a lot of hello mister, selfies, everybody wants a selfie. But a lot of the children have probably never had their photo taken with someone who looks like me. So I understand that, and I think the people here are so generous with us. We bumble around with our language, and they giggle a bit, but they're very, very generous and very forgiving. And I really like that whole thing of moving slowly between places and really getting to know people. It's not always easy, for sure, but it is a very genuine way for me to travel.
Cool. But and this is not only your lifestyle, but you also travel for a living.
I do. How lucky am I?
Yeah, how lucky are you? Because today's buzzwords, or some of the buzzwords, are off-grid and digital nomads. And you became that long before they were buzzwords or trendy words or trendy ways of living.
Yes, digital nomad didn't exist when David and I started doing what we were doing. In fact, I'm going to really age myself here, but when we started working and traveling, the internet had just got cool, and we had our first email account. So there you go. I'm ancient. But yes, we have been doing it for a long time. And look, it's a really easy, acceptable way to make an income now. And people are so much freer, wonderfully free, to work from almost anywhere in the world. And perhaps their families come along, perhaps families spend time with them, in different places. But traveling and exploring and being able to pull out your laptop and get things done. And it might have nothing to do with travel. You could be any kind of designer or teacher, or, you could be doing whatever. But being able to do it in a more beautiful place that makes you feel good and makes you feel like you leading a really balanced life is a wonderful thing. And I think in the last few years, if we can talk about good things that have come out of the last few years, that is definitely something to be cherished.
Yeah. How was COVID for you guys? Where did you end up being stuck?
Oh, well, we were in West Papua when we first saw this word coronavirus, as it was then. And we spent the sort of start of COVID in Indonesia, and then it became a little tricky for cruises. There was a lot of lockdowns over here, and communities didn't really understand, and the world didn't really understand how this virus was transmitted and what it would mean in the long term. So we eventually decided with a couple of other families to come back to Australia, and we entered via Darwin in Northern Australia. And we were very lucky in Darwin because Darwin had no community transmission of the virus at that stage. So the state, well, the territory was locked down, and we were largely very free to move about. So life for us in Australia was very different to life for other Australians in other states and territories. So we were lucky. Of course, we couldn't see family, and that's just one of the hardest things, I think, for all people, but especially for cruisers who are away from their extended families for long periods of time. It's something that we really yearn to do and look forward to do. So that was probably the difficult thing for our family, especially my little one, who was dying to see grandparents, anyone's grandparents, but mostly her own. But look, we were better off than a lot of people, definitely better off than a lot of people. So I really can't complain. And ultimately, we've been lucky enough to be able to come back to Indonesia and sort of continue on where we left off last time.
Yeah, cool. I have to ask, because I'm up here in the cold north, and I really like to put on my wool sweater and sail in the cold stuff, but you prefer shorts and bikinis. You don't want to go to the cold stuff.
It's much faster to get dressed.
It is.
But my daughter dreams of snow, just dreams of it. Right. And we do have a little thing where we have a very strong affinity with the Himalayas. So every couple of years we go to Nepal and we do a couple of months of trekking, and that seems to tick the list. She loves to trek, loves it. Just not when it's 38 degrees and 100% humidity. So I guess that's our north.
Yeah.
That's our north, is going to the mountains. But otherwise, look, the heat can be exhausting.
Yeah.
And the humidity is just nuts here. Just you don't want to wear anything. But it makes looking at fish a very enjoyable thing.
Yeah, you don't have the same experience up here. I can agree on that. Well, you at some in your book you says you don't have any plans of stepping ashore.
Not permanently at all. I think we've been at it too long now, and we really enjoy the freedom of cruising. And look, cruising is not always easy. Not every day on the sea is your boat humming along and you sitting there going, wow, I've nailed this. Most days you're clinging for dear life and checking the weather and going, that wasn't the forecast. But that's, it's those challenges, those little sneaky challenges that actually make you who you are and make you feel confident and make you grateful for pulling into an anchorage. So look, it's not always easy, but it's a little bit addictive.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine going back to land unless it's for our daughter's only 11. So there may be choices that she makes in the next 4 or 5 years that take us in another direction, and that's totally fine too, because there's good stuff on land.
Yeah,
I don't mind land. So I could definitely do it, but I just enjoy being on the water. And when you're so familiar with it, when you're so used to it, you taking it away is it's a very confronting thing. Being able to just pick up your anchor and point wherever you want to go and change your mind 5 times before you leave the harbour and off you go. I love that sort of freedom, and having it, largely in my hands. The sea always decides, of course, but largely the places that we want to visit and explore, those decisions are with us. We've got our home with us. Lots of the times we've got friends sailing with us. And so it's a beautiful way to live, I think.
But at some point in life, during these 20 years, you have to cross your mind that, shit, I don't want this anymore. I'm moving ashore. No?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Look, we did a passage about a week ago, and I think we decided that about 5 times. But I think really, really tough passages are like childbirth. It's probably not the best way to describe it, but once it's over, you're so grateful that you think, okay, we're next. So I think the ability to put really, really bad sailing passages behind you is a little bit of an illness, but a lot of cruisers have it.
Yes,
And
sailors tend to have a very short memory when it comes to bad situations and bad passages, doesn't they? A beer and a burger and this, we're pretty good to go again.
I think so. Yeah. It makes us a little strange, I think, but I like that.
So what's your plan for the next week?
For the next week, we've got a passage to do, speaking of passages, to get ourselves from Sulawesi, which is just south of the equator, where we are now, down to Flores, Lombok, Bali. I think a lot of people would be familiar with that part of Indonesia. So at the moment in the southern hemisphere, we're in monsoon, and we're just at the tail end of monsoon. And then we have what's called transition season, and then the trade winds start to blow from the southeast in this part of the world. So we're in that little hub where the westerlies are still going to ruffle our feathers, and we're just waiting for the southeast trades to kick in. So we're going to bide our time. We could go out and have a hectic sail, or we could wait a week and take a few variables and a little bit of a southerly, and that might make us smile while we're doing that 300 nautical miles down. It's not far, but it's a little exposed. So we might just find other exciting things to do. And there's lots here. Baobao's a really beautiful town. So today we went to an old 16th century fort. Yesterday we took the dinghy across the anchorage and climbed up the hill into a national park and found this most amazing waterfall. It was the water is very limey here, so it creates those tufa dams, and it just keeps building and building and rounding, and it looks like someone took a whole heap of concrete and sculpted it out. But the water is blue as a baby's eyes, and it's just magnificent. So we hiked and we swam, and we got back in our dinghy and came home. It's just magical. So I don't mind if we're here for a week waiting for the trains.
No. Sounds like you're living a perfect life.
Well, it's never perfect, John. No. But I think when you have passion for a lifestyle, and if you're lucky enough to have everybody in your family enjoy the same lifestyle, and I know that doesn't happen all the time, so I'm very grateful for that. I think we enjoy what we do, and we try and minimize all of the things that that might otherwise annoy and bother us. Yep. And there's certainly, it's life. It's just life. Everybody's got jobs to do and chores to do and things that they don't like about, different things. Passages aren't always comfortable. Mm-hmm. But when you do find something that really, really makes your soul sing, then you just hang on to that for a bit.
Cool. I think that wraps it up pretty neatly. Thank you for joining me. It was really nice talking to you, and good luck with the book. I'm going to put a link out to the. You have to send me where I should put the link so people can buy it.
Yes, and if anyone wants to see what we're up to, it's very easy. It's wildtravelstory.com.
Cool. I'll put a link out to that too. Great.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Hang on.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Hang on. Hi guys. Thanks for listening to this podcast. I hope you found it interesting. If you want to know more about high latitude sailing, I can highly recommend, without blushing, the book I wrote together with Bob Shepton High Latitude Sailing, Self-Sufficient Sailing Techniques for Cold Waters and Winter Seasons. You'll find it on Amazon, on explorenorth.no. You can follow the link to buy a hard copy. And there's also a lot of other books there that you might find interesting. Other than that, keep on sailing, guys.